Jesse, W7M, the team that is in first place, is going up against the team that is in sixth place. That's the top of the playoff bracket versus the bottom of the playoff bracket. Not common that we see this happen. How did W7M get here? Well, they got 2-0'd by Furia in the upper bracket semifinals. A funny little quirk here of the way that our playoff system works is that if you finish in those top two spots, you get a bye from the upper bracket quarterfinals. It means you don't have to play as many matches. If you then win your immediate match, you're immediately in the upper bracket final. You've clinched your spot in the top four. Furia did that. FaZe Clan did that. FaZe Clan got a bye, played 2 rounds against Nip and said, that's enough, Jesse. As for W7M, they got a bye. They came in and they mustered up 5 rounds on map number 1, 5 rounds on map number 2, and that was all she wrote. And now they're here up against Black Dragons. A really rough start for W7M, so they'll be looking for a strong bounce back against a team that was crushed by ninjas in pajamas.
Yeah, well, first let me just say I was excited to see your notes, Parker. I didn't realize you were literate before today, but it's good to see that you're taking some notes.
I can read and write, Jesse. I know it might surprise some people.
That's extremely promising to know, Parker. I'm glad that you've been working on things. For W7M Black Dragons, I mean, I think you said it right. I mean, Black Dragons are really a team that have been struggling so far in the latter half of this stage. For W7M, you know, I'm not so worried that they're here in the lower bracket. They played one of the best teams of all time in Furia in the upper bracket. They had a close 2-0 loss, so I don't think it's going to be the end of the world that they're down here. Going for a consulate pick is going to make things difficult in this first quarter, the first half. I'd like to see them try to get a couple of rounds. They will get the opening pick, finding Lobin down here on the bottom floor. So this is promising. Machina, one of those players that Leo touched on the desk, one of these young guys in South America that has been struggling in recent months alongside with Black Dragons. And so to see him popping off, get the first kill of this game, that's got to be inspiring. I mean,
it's Leo's favorite player, let's be completely frank here. So he spent so much time outing him. If you didn't hear the desk component, or if you go back and rewatch this and the desk aspect or the desk part of the broadcast is not included in the VOD, you might wonder what Leo said. It happened when they were showing all of the various players on both of these teams. Machina is the lowest rated player on Black Dragons and is doing that on a role that is purely fragging. His utility work and gadgetry work is obviously important. Every single operator's is. But he is relied upon to get these kills. He's been struggling in that side of things. And his production has been very poor. His EPS is low. His rating is low. Been a rough start for him. So a good first kill.
It's going to be a CEO-focused execute for Black Dragons. They have got the buck down below. They really need to deal with Volps. He's in a relatively predictable position. If you've got a buck below the site, you have to be clearing out this spot. If you don't, the second you try to get a plant in through the CEO window, you are pretty well done for. That smoke position is going to deny any plant that you try to go for, but they've just jumped right in. They don't seem to know he's here, Parker. This could be a disaster.
He's been waiting his time, biding his time so patiently. Volps jumps up, gets the kill. How does he fly under the radar there? Traded out on Repel by Hornet. Diffuser has been dropped, so the job, the accomplishment that was needed from W7M has now been done. Everybody else on the side of W7M, though, seems completely blind. They get killed from angles they're not even looking. Palu's the last one to falter as he was looking down when the fight was right in front of his very eyes. A very sneaky round from Black Dragons as they start off with a victory.
It's tough for Volps. He had to get out of the corner because he got hit by those Grim Bees, and if he had just stayed in the corner where he would have got killed eventually from that buck down below, but then caught on the window instead, ends up falling. We saw Palu having some rough times on the clash as well. He put the shield down really early, maybe kind of before he realized where the push was coming from. If they had a bit more pressure over on those CEO windows, could have gone a little bit better, maybe use that clash to help out Volps get him out of there. Unfortunate first round for W7M where they couldn't quite lock things down, but promising if you're a Black Dragons fan. They get their first attack. It's a team ace where every single player gets exactly 1 frag. So everybody showing up to start off for the series for Black Dragons, feeling really strong after that early 1-0 lead. Again, Consulate, one of the most defender-sided maps in the game.
Does put into perspective just how rough of a attack that was, or rather how good of an attack that was for Black Dragons. I mean, W7M has that favorable position, but again, I don't really think it matters what side you're on. Almost every single fight that we saw W7M take was done very well calculated but then they immediately got traded out by people they weren't aware from. I will say, of all the deaths from W7M, was there a single player who died firing back? It certainly didn't seem that way, at least what I could see. There will be no secret hidden defender on the side of W7M, at least not for the time being, as they are spread out all over the map. Black Dragons will bring a bunch of different tools, as will W7M, as they've blown up their defender composition, but those two SAS operators will remain quite a staple.
Yeah, really heavy roam game from W7M. They want to be able to get kills early. They've got Loban on the Capcan, Dodez on the mute, both roaming top floor, and then Volps and Piano as well. So it's a 2-1-2 kind of sandwich setup where they've got quite a few players roaming above the bomb site. Black Dragons don't seem too eager to engage with the roamers, though. We've got Rare inside a server. Got to watch out for that Visa staircase if he does get flanked later, but for now hasn't had to deal with any of that roam game. It's got Hornet kind of over here watching for that angle just in case they do get pushed. It's going to limit their opportunities to get into the site without having that top floor control. The vert angles won't be favoring them. They won't really be able to pressure spirals, so it's going to really come down to pushing the backside here in server, and then Makata looking kind of solo over towards yellow as well. Those will be the two main dimensions to this push. Already a little bit of early damage onto Loban.
Logic bombs will go off now as Machina hunts for what could be his second first blood. Loban is just out of arm's reach, but a swing from Machina ends up working out very effectively. A huge game for Machina could honestly be enough to bolster the chances of Black Dragons up against a very tough foe. Things will not get better for this W7M team, by the way. Palu was turned around, and yet again, another engagement where they're not looking the right direction. Dot seems to have figured it out, though, Jesse. He takes down two players on Black Dragons. On the stairs, you had the DMR out of Musi, but he wasn't able to do too much. Flastry now will get swamped by these last three players in the final 50 seconds. His first engagement will be Volps on Spiral Stairs, and gets swung by Dots. Huge round from Dots as W7M equalize.
Nice play from this hard support player. The desk highlighted him. You know, he is somewhat negative coming into this game, but he's the hard support as a guy who plays loads of shields. He still has a ridiculous KDR. One of those guys that's been around the scene for quite a long time. Dots has actually been playing Siege alongside Loban all the way since back in 2018 on Xbox. They went pro together, they won a major together, and now, of course, looking for even more here in the Stage 1 playoffs. Really strong start coming out from the support player of W7M. Still promising, I would say, from Black Dragons, though. Again, 1-1 to start off your attacks on console. It feels good. And back-to-back opening picks. If Machina is starting to have one of those games that we saw from him at the start of the season, that's going to make all the difference for Black Dragons. A lot of their struggles came from Machina kind of falling off towards the second half of SAL. If now he is going back in and he's being the player that can really stand up and find these entries, then that's going to make a world of difference. W7M need to address this sooner rather than later, because even though the game's 1-1, they can't let these opening picks continue.
Still a long way to go. This is a best of three as we're here in the playoffs. As was talked about by the desk, there are already two teams that have clinched their spot in the top four of the South America League. All of the remaining teams are Brazilian. The lone team with Argentinian players unfortunately did not make it very deep into this league. I'll be 9Z for people who are curious. All the rest of them, even though this is now the South America League, it's not Brazil anymore. The regions have been united. It is still dominated by Brazil, just as, frankly, most of our esport at the top has been. Brazil is in a terrific region as of late. Two teams looking for their spot in the top four today. Will it be NIP or Team Liquid in our later match, or will it be W7M and Black Dragons here? Which of these two will make it to join Furia and FaZe Clan to represent the region?
There's nobody on the main floor this game for Machina to find an opening pick onto. Instead, it's going to be an admin-focused push from Black Dragons, but they'll have to deal with a clash. Blackbeard makes his way in thanks to some good droning from Rare. This Nitro from Palu is a bit of an old one. It's been a while since I've seen a team go for something like this. He launches it over, does not find anyone. If Rare had been swinging in, that would have been a pick, but mistimed slightly on the side of W7M. You can see how slow this is going though, Parker. In 90 seconds, really no map control other than admin and Visa currently being held by Black Dragons. This clash has caused a lot of problems for them. Dot's already backing off all the way to the bomb site, so he has given up some of this space, but this isn't even really the tough part to take. The vending hallway is usually the most difficult part of the map to get through when you're going for an admin side clear, and they haven't even really started looking at it yet.
Dots is just wasting time right now as he assesses what's on the other side of that small secondary hard breach opening. He might have some teammates now join him in lockstep, looking for greater defense. Volps and Palu with those SMG-11s in hand looked like they were the two that would get to this spot. Great time for Gas to choke out Hornet's advances. He'll use both of his nades to try to clear an opening, maybe push some of these defenders around. They don't find much. Everybody's still alive with 40 seconds left. A swing from Rare will be the sound of the gun to start the execute. Odez off the board. He's yet to find a kill so far, Jesse. 10 seconds have been burned through. Loban will answer back. Blastry with one of his own. These teams just trading left and right. There's a job to be done here, though. You need to get that diffuser down. Only 2 players for w7m to hold this in place, make that 1, as Volps will be all on his lonesome. Flash in the default plant spot, now followed up by the Deimos, and Flastry should get this kill. No! Volps wins it because of a team kill. All the remaining members of Black Dragons buried in the same spot. Only 2 at the hands of Volps, 1 by their own teammates, and w7m will be awfully happy about that.
That is a ridiculous round win coming in from the captain of w7m. Volps in the 1v3. You go back to that push from Black Dragons, and it's supposed to be admin side, right? You think, okay, they're going to take through admin, they're going to take through vending, and then they're going to plant just in the meeting door. But Machina took Defuse Kit CEO all by himself. That whole time, Volps had Defuse Kit. You got to ask the question, why is the kit not with the 4 players all pushing admin side, and instead it's with Machina all by himself over towards CEO? Extremely confusing decision there. Machina not the guy who's usually got the Defuse Kit, so they had to make the decision halfway through that round to give Machina the kit. He's actually the only player on Black Dragons to have never planted the Defuse Kit all season long. So it was extremely weird to see it in his hands. And then he just delivers it to the most perfect spot that Volps could ever ask for. He can then play that late round with the shotgun tucked inside on the CEO default plant spot. That is devastating for w7m. By all accounts, that should have been a win for Black Dragons. They should have been able to get a simple plant off just inside of meeting, but mismanagement of the case, and Volps stepping up with a huge performance in the 1v3.
Assuming there's some tech issues here, as the admins have been called over on the side of w7m and are pointing at some computer problems, pointed directly at the monitor, mind you. I do think that is the universal signal of there's a problem with my computer, is to point at the monitor, even though there are actually very rare moments where the monitor is the problem.
Right.
You think about the poor monitor's feeling there. Blamed for all the issues. In all reality, it's probably a PC or a tower issue.
The monitor also gets the glory, though. You know, you get hyped at the monitor. The monitor shows you all the exciting stuff. Nobody really thinks about what the GPU's doing, right?
To locate and defuse as many bombs as they can.
Right. I hadn't really considered that, Jesse. Great point.
Thank you.
I have to take it easy on you, because after I walked through hell with my head held high and survived the last couple weeks where I was just like terribly under the weather, now it's Jesse's turn to be very sick.
Yeah.
The flu has made it all the way from Toronto over to Edmonton. And I got to be honest, you think the flu gets like halfway through the prairies and looks at a map and goes, oh, I don't really want to keep going?
I think the flu is trying to escape Toronto, just like most people in Toronto are trying to come out to the west. Maybe the flu couldn't afford any housing down in the GTA, I don't know.
Famously, Ontarians love to move from Ontario to Alberta and then complain that it's not Ontario.
That sounds about right.
I mean, America has similar issues, I suppose, where you move from like New York or wherever, one of the big cities, and you move to like Alabama or like Missouri, and you're like, no, this doesn't have the feelings of home. And it's like, well, no duh. But Either way, we're back in action now. W7M took that previous round on a wild finish that Black Dragons will likely be maybe a bit flustered from, but you just have to mentally reset and move on. But committing mistakes like that is unideal. I will say, very little time left. You've got the last player trapped in a corner, and there's 3 of you. I guess there's a shotgun in hand from the remaining defender, so maybe not an ideal situation to be in. I honestly think that the finger pointing kind of goes to Flastry there. He missed almost all of his shots at close range. With that secondary in hand for Deimos, that thing kills you in like 2 hits.
I mean, if we're pointing fingers, they shouldn't have been in that spot to begin with, where he had the defuse kit CEO. But neither here nor there, all right? The bomb site is back on piano for the first time, and they're tossing some Candelas into meeting. Nobody actually pushing just yet. Machina down to his final Candela as he is holding it in his hand. Will he let it fly? Rare's in the hallway nearby to try to make that rush in. We do see the striker coming in as well from Hornet. Here comes the push.
I'm really impressed with Black Dragon's ability to find these first bloods. I mean, it hasn't netted them a majority of the rounds so far. They trail, but at least there's some confidence in their ability to enter here. Half of the round to go, and 4 players, now 5 in the ground. W7M coming out ahead in that first brawl. Not just ahead, but leaving Machina, the guy who's usually responsible for the very first picks, to suffer and get picked off. Most of those interactions occurred above. Don't be confused, the bomb site was on the main floor. W7M swiftly rebuffed Black Dragons.
Yeah, Dot's 2 important picks in the midst of that chaos too, though. The lone anchor down on the main floor. He was being pressured by Flashtree. That was kind of the 1v1 that was going down on the main floor while everybody else was top floor. And then after he won his initial duel, Dot's then got a vertical angle as well to eventually kill Machina. So a big 2K from the anchor player of W7M. Not maybe where they expected the kills to come from on the side of W7M, but they get the job done nonetheless. If that doesn't happen, right? If Dots doesn't get those 2 kills, I actually think it is a pretty decent clear of the top floor. The Candelas were timed really nicely. Rare and Hornet kind of worked together to get in quite quickly. Maybe the Deimos play from Muzi could have been a little bit better. He did have a Deathmark track going down onto Dodez, ended up losing that 1v1. Muzi, obviously a guy who's been around for a very long time, but sometimes those new tricks, the Deimos, one of those operators that we see very high skill ceiling, very high skill floor, an operator that can be very tough to use sometimes, but maybe just not quite finding the value for Black Dragons in this first half. Deimos, one of the most commonly banned operators on Consulate still, but it just doesn't seem to be finding a lot of value for Black Dragons through the first 4 rounds.
No, and to your point, I mean, you bring a Deimos for a couple of reasons. We see some teams like to use him early to pin down a roamer and hunt somebody while the rest of the team quickly sets up around the bomb site. Lots of teams, and probably the most common application of him is when he'll be used in the moments before an execute or even in the post plant, which is a bit of a gamble, right? Your Deimos has to stay alive until the execute is about to go down. My eye always kind of twitches when I see a Deimos die with all death marks still in pocket, because it's just completely wasted utility at that point. But I mean, there's lots of operators that are in that same boat. Deimos is not unique right there. If there is troubles in either the beginning, middle, or end of a round, a Deimos can bail you out. Black Dragons, despite losing all these rounds, haven't had problems getting that first pick. They've actually been excellent at drawing first blood. They're far outpacing W7M at this point. An attacking team getting first blood should give so much weight off of your shoulders. It has not worked, though. 2 uncontested first bloods, and then the rest have just been either trades or a first blood that has immediately not just been traded out, but you've been dogpiled. Those last couple rounds were good examples of that. Hornet will be running the Deimos yet again, but I think you can kind of finger point at some of these stronger ops, Jesse. We see teams try to make shields work when shields either get banned or they're not the most proficient at it, and I just have to ask the question, would another operator not make more sense?
Well, here comes one of those shields, obviously getting that space. Machina, first time this game he's been playing the Blackbeard. Previously, it's been Rare on this op, and his feet are kind of getting shot out. About 20% damage now removed from Machina. Got to be careful as he walks into the barbed wire, but ultimately he does still survive. 50% HP or more still being held on him. Slowly bleeding out to just little bits of utility, and there hasn't been a huge follow-up. Hornet stuck his way through, but he does go down, and both 2 beautiful shots takes down Machina right afterward. They're on fire for W7M, finally traded back on a Dodez, but Hornet still remains.
So many of these rounds, though, Jesse, have been W7M leading the way. I feel like that first round, with how incredibly strong Black Dragons looked, gave us a false impression of what Black Dragons could do on attack. W7M have been in full control every step of the way. Admittedly, Volp should not have won that 1v3, but it doesn't really matter. He still did. The scoreline is where it's at. It could be a tie game. Black Dragons, again, have to mentally move on. They were just staring down a 1v4. It comes a 1v3 as Musi picks up his second kill, but he's got only a grenade in pocket as utility, and these last players from W7M are going to run all over the place.
Tough break. There's nothing being given by W7M. He's just got a pre-fire every corner he turns around. Doesn't have the fuse kit either. That's going to be downed. I believe it's still on the first floor. There is a player up above. He's not been able to hunt them down. Dots might find this first kill, but Musi seems to have a read. He's at least predicting there could be someone here. This would be a big pick, but Dots falls off with perfect timing. They're just playing the clock so well, Parker. Musi moves back down, but doesn't have kit, and there's still a guy above him.
He's gone. It was just prolonging the inevitable at that point. Really not that much to say. W7M really riding out the better side of this map. A very defender-sided map, and the defenders on W7M are doing things very well. I will say, when you are the first place team in the region, as this W7M squad is, it's not common that you're going to have multiple bad games. There are only 2 losses in the group stages for W7M. It was the fewest losses of any team, which is partially why they sat atop the standings. They did have a really rough game against Furia, but honestly, 7-5, 7-5 is pretty close. That's all 12 rounds of regulation. It's as close as you're going to get without going to overtime to lose. And again, 1 round breaks in a different direction in each way. You go to OT, who knows what happens? They might have even needed a 3rd map. So W7M still kept pace with a team that, while Furia is not the world beaters they were a year and a half ago, they are still a top team in the world, and W7M losing 2 nail biters is not the end of the world. Unfortunately, if you're a fan of Black Dragons, you have a very angry, very pissed off W7M that wants to make that top 4, and you on Black Dragons are the only thing standing in their way.
Well, we'll go back to the top floor for the 3rd time, and this has definitely been the best bomb site for Black Dragons. Usually the strongest site on Consulate, but the first round, obviously, Black Dragons walked away with the win, and the second time they went to top floor, it was that Volps 1v3 that was a total chaos, frankly. That could have gone either way. Looks like it's going to be yet another CEO execute with a fuse kit likely coming down CEO side for a 3rd time. They've got a lot of utility for the actual execute with, of course, those Candelas from Flash Tree, Finkastim from Machina, the Bees coming out from Hornet. There's a lot to do at this point. The second half should be a lot easier for Black Dragons too. W7M are the best defending team in the South America League, and with only a 38% attacking win rate, Black Dragons have really struggled on this offensive side all season long. The second half should be where they get a little bit of a break. If they can get that 4-2, they're honestly still in this game, especially with this being their map pick. They should have some really strong defenses that they've been prepping all week for this. But even with that preparation, if you can't get that 4-2, if you go into the second half at a 5-1, you're still feeling really rough.
I want to say it's been drawn out, but there's about a week from the first game of the upper bracket quarterfinals to the grand final match. So you're absolutely right. These teams have had some time to do some real wood shedding and sharpen their steel, so to speak. W7M on the board first this round, and it will continue to go very well in their favor. They have lost Loban as he bleeds out on the ground, but he's still retrievable. Swinging now from Flastry as the guns from Black Dragons come alive, maybe a bit too quick. Down goes Palu, so hold on a second here. This is very winnable. Now it's all up to Dodes. Black Dragons have found themselves in an enviable spot, and Musi will have a terrific round. Could have been a 5-1 half based on the score for W7M. Black Dragons will salvage the final round of the first half. This could also have been a 3-3 first half if they hadn't all decided to jump on Volps in an ill-advised push. But the scoreline says 4-2, and that's what we'll roll with. Side swap coming in, and now time for these teams to remove 4 ops.
Listen, it wasn't pretty round 6, but the 24-year-old veteran gets it done. Nicely played by Musi. Probably going to see the double shield man coming out, targeting dots. You don't want to let him have that blitz. I would expect to be the Monty next, just for Consulate, but Blackbeard I think would be extremely reasonable as well. Kaid would be the expected second ban to come through from w7m. Other options would be the Mira, maybe the Warden, maybe the Valkyrie. There's a lot of good defenders that you can ban on Consulate. You got to take a choice. Will be Monty and Kaid. So I think those were the most predictable bans to be coming out through there. All 4 operators being removed, being extremely common from both sides. Once again, despite some of the rougher moments in that half, looking a little scrappy, a little scary for Black Dragons, w7m didn't play a great defensive half on Consulate either. You go back to that 6th round, and they were moving around a ton, maybe opening up themselves to get taken out a little bit more than they had to. Some panic movement coming out from w7m caused some deaths that they didn't really need to take. They can't be panicked going into a game like this. You're up against Black Dragons. You're the heavy favorites. There is a spot at a LAN event on the line. You need to be composed in a game like this. On attack, sometimes those mistakes can be even harder punished. So w7m, job is not done. This is going to get even harder before it gets easier when you get to your second map pick. They've got to lock in for this attacking half. Otherwise, Black Dragons could definitely take this and come on back for the defensive side.
I mean, we could be very far from a conclusion between these two teams. When you get to the playoffs, anything can happen, right? A best-of-1 group stage will give you specific results based on that day. And if you're having a bad day, if a player's having a bad day, or maybe they're even having a bad week, that could be 2 matches that you just fall apart in. And as I stated, w7m only lost 2 games, all group stage. You have a bad week, you lose those 2. You win every other game you're in, you just chalk it up to a bad week, that's it. That impacts the scoreline, that impacts the standings. Question will be, what do we see out of them in a best of 3? Black Dragons have that staying power. Black Dragons tied for 6th against Loud, won it because of the tiebreaker. They just squeaked in to the playoffs. Opposite story for w7m, as they were the #1 team. So Black Dragons will already be battling uphill. They do have the benefit now of the better side of Consulate. If they cannot make up ground quickly, then map 2 might be where we turn our sights.
So it doesn't look like w7m are so interested in clearing the top floor. Dodas has made a lot of room, currently hiding from the default camera inside of Lounge. Might be a Vault Cam up here as well that's also not been able to see him. So this is really, really good usage out of the Nook from Dodez. It's only 1 player on site. If Rare goes down, then this could be a free bomb site for Volps to get the plant down. Obviously, every plant on this site can get denied from above, so you got to watch out for that. And there's that vertical pressure. Flashery opens things up with a great pick on a Dodez.
Well, w7m experiencing what is a bit of a tough gambit here on Consulate. They answer back very quickly. Rare and Hornet are both removed. Rare was one of those players that was highlighted by the desk for being a top-rated player on the side of Black Dragons. It's rough to lose him so early. Musi last man standing now, and this defense from Black Dragons has completely fallen apart. This is eerily reminiscent of round 1 of the first half. w7m obviously showing some struggles to settle in as defenders to start this match. Now it's Black Dragons doing the same thing on the second side. Musi tossed out a Nitro Cell as Diffuser was going down. Volps had to stop, but for a moment, as Pauly will now go for coverage. Musi is in a very winnable situation, but he's lost a lot of HP. Out comes the SMG-12 as he dances around the door frame. He was just buying time for Volps to get the job done. 11 kills for Volps now, as w7m move to a 5th round and are within striking distance of match point.
I want to quickly touch on the bomb site rotation for Black Dragons. When they played Consulate last time against Team Liquid, that was about a month ago, the last time they played this map, they started the defensive side. They played the middle floor, so Exposition and Piano, twice, lost it both times. They played the split site twice, lost it both times. They only chose to go top floor and basement once each. They won both of those rounds. So it's been weird both in that previous game against Liquid and now this game against w7m. The Black Dragons have seemingly prioritized going to these tertiary and kind of 4th sites for a lot of teams. Most teams would tell you the top floor site's the best site, the basement's the second best, and then Piano would be the 3rd. But Black Dragons seem to have a completely different read on this Consulate map where they really enjoy the middle bomb sites. They don't win on them very often, and that trend does continue as they lost round 7 on that middle floor site. But it'll be interesting to see kind of as the second half goes on, if they do resort back to those defaults, if they go back to top floor, if they go back to basement, maybe have some more success over there. It will be CEO for our 8th round, so they will choose to go top floor now, but really interesting setup bomb site stats from the last game against Liquid, and at least from the first round, it seems like it's continuing now against w7m.
Get the sign up side of w7m for what they decide to bring to this fight. They do have one traditional hard breach locked in, and I suspect that will hold. Ivana is a fast operator. She's got great fragging potential. She, like Ace, can be applied from some distance. Obviously, Thermite and Maverick need to be a little bit closer. w7m are a bit boxed in because both of these shields have been banned out by Black Dragons, which just leaves you the Blackbeard, which is definitely doable. I mean, Black Dragons brought him a number of times. I am praying. I don't believe in a higher power, but I am praying that if one exists, they hear my calls that we stop seeing Fuse Shield. That's really all I ask for these days. Doesn't matter the region, just please stop bringing it, I beg you. w7m and their god has heard my prayers, at least in this round. This is a punishing lineup. So, A, we thought that there'd be a hard breacher locked in. Wrong. There's no secondary hard breach whatsoever. This is a pure fighting lineup. Ying, Deimos, Glaz, a Grim to isolate the player. This could be a fast push over towards the B bomb site. Right now, the only line of defense for Black Dragons appears to be Flastry.
I mean, he's taking some risks, Parker, already swinging. They're going to know his position. If they can get somebody below, he makes it out with his life somehow. It's a good thing that he did, because once they knew his position, they could just get somebody down below, probably Loban, and get a freebie pick on them. So it's good that they at least did get him out of dodge. This has to be a CEO plant again. Without hard breach, you're not going to be able to open up that balcony wall into meetings. So it's really awkward if you are trying to push meeting side. That means the CEO window is going to be absolutely critical. Loban down below taking a little bit of vertical pressure as well. Machina is down there trying to fight Loban to stop that denial. Rare actually below site too. So that's only 3 players from Black Dragons that are on the top floor trying to hold this down. No smoke, no Tachanka. So it is only these nitros to deny a plant. If w7m can whittle down that utility, then they're actually in a really good spot to go for this execute, because usually to stop a CEO window, you need something like a smoke.
Nice plays by Black Dragons. w7m were just caught with their pants down over by the windows on rappel, and they have lost everything except for Volps and Palu, who admittedly are both terrific players, but very little's been done to Black Dragons at this point. Flastry's walking with a little bit of damage. Palu will now head over towards Yellow Stairs in a battle directly against Rare, which he loses, leaving Volps as the last man for w7m, still outside the building. Volps on top of that skylight looking at Yellow Stairs, just a couple floors above where Palu expired. Volps will head over towards the admin side, but with 40 seconds left and he's in a 1v5, I don't suspect we'll see very much from w7m. At least he's got the courage to go after them all. He could have called a timeout on the rooftop. But I mean, there's just no way. There's no way Volps is going to pick up all 5 of these kills. Flawless round for Black Dragons is far more likely, as they only need a single player remaining on the side of w7m. They found each other, by the way. Hornet will swing around the side, get the final kill. Another round for Black Dragons. Really, really bad struggle for w7m to get in the building. I don't know what the idea was there, but it seems like defense from Black Dragons just caught them up.
Yeah, well, I think it really comes down to just no information on those bottom floor players, right? Both Machina and Rare playing down below. I think Rare went completely undroned. So once he walked up Yellow, he was free to get the opening pick onto Loban, had no idea that he was down there. So Rare, the captain of Black Dragons, creeps up from the basement, gets that early opening pick. Now it's a man advantage for Black Dragons. Dots then just get swung from CEO windows, which was tough on his part. You don't expect that aggression coming out from the defenders, but I guess when you've got the momentum, you need to run with it. And then Dodez died into a vert angle as well. So it was oftentimes those bottom floor players, the guys inside piano, that were losing their lives for w7m. Some of that comes down to just losing those vertical fights. Some of that comes down to not good enough droning to find those players that were roaming inside the basement. So maybe a bit sloppy, maybe a bit, I don't know, a bit quick from w7m to get into piano before they really understood how much map control they actually had. I think they expected far more players on Black Dragons to be set up towards the top floor, towards the bomb site, but it just didn't seem to happen. And then Volps, I mean, he's had one great clutch on that bomb site so far today, but the 1v5 with the Glaz, yeah, not really going to be doable. Gave it his best effort, though.
Not really a... It's a reminder to everybody watching to make sure that you're constantly checking your settings there. It's important to know that after major patches, your settings can reset, so ensure that they're always where you want them to be. I mean, hell, I've had that issue befall me where an update will come in, I'll load into the game, and I'll be like, why am I only getting like 100 frames? What the hell happened here? Oh, everything's been set to ultra. That's no bueno. Set them right back down to low, except shadows. Shadows remain on high. Everything else low. You'll thank me later.
Sweat stats.
Sorry?
You got the sweat stats. You don't care how the game looks?
No, I want performance. I'm not playing this game to watch a movie. I'm playing this game to try to be the best. I'm 35 years old, Jesse. I couldn't hit water if I fell out of a boat. Akina's the only person dead so far on the side of Black Dragons. They are having a great time on this second half with getting these first picks. Lobin will also die on the side of w7m, so Black Dragons doubling up on numbers. Will say no thanks, but he's going to be last alive. Palu taken out in the basement. Dodez is on the second floor. A very split execute for W7M, as now they have 3 players on Black Dragons to find. W7M are tantalizingly close to match point. Got time to, I guess, see if Dodez can double his kill tally, sitting on 3 at the moment. 3 remain from Black Dragons. 6 kills are possible. BD, I will give them credit. Through their defenses, they have played very well together, albeit a small sample size, but I don't think this is a team that is going to split up and give W7M, in particular Dodez, a bunch of isolated engagements. So, should be 4 on the round for Black Dragons as they close this gap. We'll also have a brief pause as the last wave of operator bans for the second half come in. Don't know if timeouts will be called. I don't know if we're getting to that point just yet. Nice play by Dodez to eliminate Musi. That was an isolated engagement, and there's no follow-up. Death marks will go out, and this time it's Rare who he'll hunt down, Jesse.
Might be doable, low-key. I mean, he has Diffuse Kit, too, so he can force a plant if one of these players tries to rotate back, but he needs a pick before he can do anything regarding the Diffuse Kit.
Nitro Cell goes off. Statistically, the 2 best players on the side of Black Dragons still remaining. They'll both compete for kills, but they're being awfully patient because they know neither of them need to fire a single bullet to win this round. If Dodez cannot get into the site to play a diffuser, he can still win. 7 seconds left. Rare will be hunted down. Sidearm is out. Deimos is looking for the final kill. The castle trying to keep away. Rare wins the fight, but it was an awfully close one. My goodness. Excellent attempt by W7M to win it. And that's about as close as you're going to get with the timer being what it is. Too close for comfort for Black Dragons, but they stick the landing, win the 50-50, and are within 1 round of tying up map 1.
Oh my god, a sigh of relief if you're Black Dragons. Rare able to win the 1v1. Dodez is an insane player who does insane things sometimes, so that one certainly was in the realm of possibility. Came so close, but Rare's just good enough to get it done. On the defensive half specifically, Rare has been the best player on Black Dragons, rocking a 128 KDR on the defensive side. The captain from Rio de Janeiro has really been stepping up on the kill department for Black Dragons. This is a team that has kind of rebuilt itself in the offseason. They, of course, had that previous roster built around Ask as the captain that made it to the Montreal Major, that had some big moments last season. Since then, they've removed 4 of their players and have only kept Hornet on the team. So they've completely reformatted. Rare's come in as the captain of this team to be their IGL, also be kind of the backbone of this squad. And I think on defense, he's really shown that. I believe he was the opening death in that first defensive round, round 7, but then had the really big flank round 8 to come up from the basement, and then also having the huge 1v1 clutch for that final round, round 9. That's really massive to come through from him. It gives a bit of life back to Black Dragons. We see the TAC timeout coming out from W7M. Their coach Norris will have quite a few words that he'll be mostly directing towards Volps, the captain of the team. But of course, everybody able to listen into that. They hopefully can reformat that. It's a full site rotation coming out from Black Dragons where they only lost that first round. So they don't have to go back to piano if they don't want to. A lot of options still on the board for this team. I told you, Parker, defensive consulate, we could absolutely see this comeback, and it seems to be in front of our eyes right now.
Yeah, I mean, the timeout here will try to settle some things down, and W7M have struggled through the last couple rounds with just getting into the building successfully. It is a great struggle on this map. You know, Consulate is unique, but it does share similarities with some of the other maps in the map pool. A big one is Cafe. Consulate is a map where a lot happens on the outskirts of these bomb sites. So in this particular case, because most of the bomb sites on Consulate, you can hop in a window or run through a door and simply get a plant off. A lot of it's going to happen on rappel outside. Teams try to get around this by spreading out their roams so that they can either catch you in a post plant or be in positions to go for runouts while looking for those rappels. Attackers have been given a major leg up with the changes that came in for Siege X. Is that now you can actually run on rappel and you're not as immobile as you were in the original Rainbow Six Siege. It makes me sound so old to say that. I mean, if your big struggle is to get in the building, you have to bring the tools to be able to pull that off. I love this Deimos ban by Black Dragons. It was a hugely important operator on the side of W7M. They have lost some big tools in those shields, but without the Deimos, they might find themselves in an even worse spot. Black Dragons could, just based on that single operator ban, be in even better shape to close this out and possibly take a lead here in the second half.
Yeah, I gotta agree. That limits a lot of their vertical pressure too. So once we get back to that CEO bomb site, getting in from down below is gonna be a lot more difficult. We'll probably see a buck come out in response, or maybe an admin side push instead from W7M. Not to be worried about just yet though. They've got Piano in front of them for round 10. Of course, they've got some good droning as well. They've managed to clear out through Visa. They cleared out through admin as well, just above. They did see somebody down below. So they'll know the approximate position of at least one of the players on Black Dragons. Muzi is lurking in the basement along with Flashtree. That's double information operators. The Valkyrie plus the Pulse could have some really big impacts late in this round if they don't get addressed. But Machina actually finds the entry, takes down Dots up on that top floor, so able to get that early value, and the star player from Black Dragons finds yet another entry on Consulate.
Yeah, things do not get better for W7M, which is devastating after calling a timeout and losing a very powerful operator that both of these teams used quite extensively. You bail yourself out of this position. Lots of staying power on the side of Black Dragons. Blackbeard Loban making an appearance, and it will chase Hornet off of his position now as nades go down to isolate this fight over towards Yellow Stairs. And speaking of yellow, that's the sign of the gas dropped by Hornet as he goes fishing for a shotgun kill on Yellow Stairs. Doesn't find anything for it, and it's prompted Loban to have to retreat up to the safety of that curve. They've trapped Hornet in this position, though. He is beneath the bomb site, playing by the yellow door runout. Not a lot of time for W7M to switch things up.
Gotta find some way to make this happen. They do have Sens walls as well, but they continue to struggle with Hornet, who's just playing the shotgun. They've got Volps as well, trying to take this gunfight, but also downed. That's Diffuse Kit too, Parker. He might just get all of them.
A one-man show at the moment is now with the shotgun out. He will try to quick peek Palu, fail in the process. Odas and Palu are the last ones standing. Black Dragons doubled up. A familiar circumstance that W7M finds themselves in, and not a good circumstance at all. ROU from Sens will go out. Odas and Palu now ever closer to the bomb site, but Rare is there to gun them both down. Very few bullets, 2 targets. That's all that matters. A huge win from Black Dragons as Org owner Cherry Gums cheers the team on from the sidelines, and we're all tied up.
Wow, we're feeling really good as the Black Dragons fans in the crowd. I mean, they've been really struggling so far through this stage, but now to be 5-5 up against W7M, yes, it's their map pick, but even still, this has been a bit of a streak now in terms of rounds, 3 in a row. They've been in Siege for over 9 years at this point, and they've still made fewer than half the total events that W7M have made. W7M are looking to make it to their 13th S-tier event. Black Dragons are looking to make it to their 6th as an organization. And they've been, again, in Rainbow Six for about double the time that W7M have. So, I mean, this is an organization that has long been in Siege. I believe the longest standing organization that have not left and come back as far as all Siege orgs are concerned. I know Elevate's been in for a long time, but they've been in and out, in and out, in and out. ever since Brazil really became a region, since we had Latin American Pro League, Parker, Black Dragons have been a staple of this scene.
Black Dragons, as far as I can tell, have had a team continuously for almost a decade at this point. I mean, they actually, the org actually predates me. They've changed their logo, but the name remains the same. The org ownership has largely remained the same. Cherry Gums, whether she's been the outright owner or co-owner of the team, has been a staple for this org and very visible in Brazilian Siege and just Siege in general. She's at most events, repping the team, repping the org, whether she's there because the team qualifies or she's there because she's also a content creator in her own right. And of course, her connection to the org helps her out as well. So lots of history here for this squad. I mean, it's hard to pull off a rebrand as Black Dragons did when you've got such a long history with what honestly might have been one of the best esports logos I've ever seen. I'm a little saddened that they changed it just because I thought it was near perfect, but sometimes things need to be refreshed. They are far from the only org that has changed things up with the way that they look. Volps with the leadoff pick onto Machina. That's a huge pick, honestly, and w7m need everything they can get as they have picked up that 5th round and then been beaten by Black Dragons 3 rounds in a row.
Big risk running out the front door like that, but sometimes in these desperate situations when things get to the tightest, you've got to make risks, and that one doesn't pay off. Start to open up this wall now from the balcony, putting as high up as possible. Might give them a bit of a better angle if they do hold it from rappel. There's of course no mute jammers, that did get banned out. Now they'll use a actual can opener for the entrance. This bending hall is so annoying to push through, Parker. We saw Black Dragon struggling with their own attacks. The Sens wall can help cut off an angle from reception. So top spiral, if those players are in that direction, this can kind of help get you past. But now with the Sens dying the Muzi, that's no longer going to be an option for you, and that Sens wall will fall. So it comes down to the final 3 players.
And the advantage goes back in favor of Black Dragons. Blaster having his hands full of top Visa, meeting the Blackbeard head on and suffering through it before the gas can even go off. 3v3 with little under a minute to go. Plenty of time for both of these teams. No real advantage here. Palu will increase the chances of w7m winning the round now as down goes Muzi. Team leading Rare will have to pick up some of the slack. He starts by gunning down Loban. Dots is on low HP as now Hornet will loop around. Diffuser will continue to tick away. It's going to be a standoff. Palu taking matters into his own hands. Very aggressive on that position. And now Rare will be on a collision course with the Capitao of Palu outside on the balcony. No real information for Rare. Palu can sit tightly against the wall and Rare will swing and get finished off by Palu as only the 2nd attacking victory for w7m comes in at a great time, mind you. Because if you're w7m, you either go to OT or you win in regulation. You do not need to worry about a regulation loss.
Massive coming through from w7m. Slow and steady push in through the admin side. I said without that Demos, going for the CEO plan was going to be a little bit trickier after the operator ban phase. So they did go admin side this time and wasn't the cleanest. They did lose a couple of bodies. That smoke over towards the vending hall top Visa was a huge problem for them. But I really think Paulu was excellent on the Capitao. Maybe the best late round player in Siege. He is always alive towards the end of the round, and he makes sure that he has impact when he's staying alive late, using that Capitao fire to make sure that nobody can go out for a swing to deny that plant. That was absolutely critical. Then in the post plant, playing the passive angle, gets that final kill. Absolutely well played by Paulu. Made every correct decision. Also one of those players that's been around for a very long time. We talk about the history of Black Dragons. Paulu, a 16-6 record against this organization throughout his career, primarily on Team Liquid. Hoping to make that 17th win now here against Black Dragons and qualify to the top 4 for the South American League. One more round is all it'll take, and w7m will have their opponent's map pick. Black Dragons cannot allow that to happen. If they go to border 1-0 down on the series, they are in a difficult spot.
I would not want to be in that position at all. We will get a thrilling end to this first map, though. Whether it comes right now in round number 12, or whether it emerges in overtime. I will say, for w7m, they have done something they were unable to do against Furia, which is get to 6 rounds. Again, it was a 7-5, 7-5 for Furia over w7m, so they've already beaten their record in that very first series, at least on map 1. Wheels could completely fall off for W7M at some point, but has there been a time where a first place team has seemed as vulnerable as W7M has at points through the group stages? Must have been a while.
I'd have to go back and check. I'm sure there have been, but it's certainly not what you'd come to expect. Especially for a team like W7M, who they didn't get first place by a fluke. You know, this is an incredibly strong team. I think no one would argue top 5 in the world. I would say probably top 4, top 3 looking at that area. And there's an argument to be made that at times they've been top 1. Hornet very solo up here inside Piano. He's got Muzi up above him on the top floor and Rare over towards Spiral. But these roamers, the 3 of them for Black Dragons, are very solo. W7M don't have great roam clear ops. Obviously, Deimos got banned out, but I don't see a Dokkaebi. There's no Lion on the board either for them to try to find one of those frags. Hornet's position is very much known, but he is still wasting time. We're almost down to 60 seconds, Parker, and still they have yet to find that frag.
Common thing that happens when teams get to these very critical rounds is they tend to play things a bit slower. If you talk to some teams, it's because there's a bit of caution on their side. If it's the 3rd round, yeah, maybe you can make a daring play. Not really here. You make a daring play, it doesn't work out. That could be defeat. So teams will take their time. Rare on the board first. Black Dragons striking exactly how they need. Makita's been dropped though, and now Volps will get the follow-up. Logan was looking for more over inside a Piano, but the stead at the moment from Hornetau is working out. Dota's finishing off Rare. That's the big bad on the side of Black Dragons. No more. Palu is down, so the count now favoring Black Dragons by 1. Swing from Muzi as Dodes is doing his best. He's got Volps side by side. I don't know if Palu is retrievable. Flastry and Volps will now be on a collision course. The Mira dropped. But just like that, Black Dragons will get the final 2 kills, send us to overtime. It was in the blink of an eye as they gun down those players all within the span of half a second, and we will need at least 2 more rounds here on Consulate.
We were very focused on the observing that round on the top floor roam clear, but whilst that was going on, the push was from W7M was coming in through the back. They had taken control of server. They were trying to push in through lockers, and it all fell to pieces. Dots, the hard support with the defuse kit being the opening death to Rare was really tough. We saw just how good Rare can be in the basement on that site when he's playing the anchor role. It definitely could have come down to another Rare v Dodes type situation, but eventually Rare went down and Dodes could not get the job done. Saw a bit of that melee priority engagement going down with Volps and the Blackbeard too. He did look like he was going to get the kill, but it wasted just enough time in that melee battle for him to then eventually die to the Yellow Stairs players. So good from W7, or good from Black Dragons, I should say, to stall out the clock really well. They didn't give up anything on the roam game until that push was finally coming through. If W7M had gotten some of those earlier picks, maybe they could have then focused their full attention onto the basement and gone for that 5v4 execute, 5v3 execute, but didn't quite get to that step. They were so busy with the roam clear up above that they had to push the site with only 3 players, and that meant that they were getting picked apart by those anchors. So good from Black Dragons. They get defensive start in overtime too, Parker. You have to imagine they're feeling extremely good about that. This is their map pick. They can choose whatever sites they want, and they'll start on the top floor.
Yeah, scary situation to be in, but managed to get themselves into a good spot and will now benefit from this overtime position. After the Deimos ban, W7M was still able to put 1 round on the board, but again, he's such a strong operator, and if you're struggling to get those opening picks, then well, that's not very ideal. He's an operator that can help in that regard. He won't fix everything, but he's incredibly powerful for entries. Teams don't really use him for entries anymore, but
yeah, we'll have to see how this ends up going. Rare, the only player over towards admin, so this does feel like both teams have the right read. This is going to be a CEO execute coming out from W7M. We've seen a lot of these today. They've certainly got the tools. Loban from down below is trying to make sure that there's nobody in a difficult position. Flashy on the Clash is probably going to be their biggest issue. They can get maybe a read onto where he's at. If Loban can get one of those frags, that would be huge. Instead, they've got a drone on one of these other players inside the small office. Here comes the Grim pings to try to get a pick onto somebody. The yellow ping won't be directly on the mark, so Loban's struggling to find one of these picks. again, with the Clash being exactly where she is, she can cross the sightline from the window rappel and then can deny the plant from inside the corner. So she's in a really strong position to be able to win this round for Black Dragons. They need to find some kind of an answer, whether that's Loban down below, whether that's Dodez with an air jab. They need to find some way to get past this Clash so they can go for a plant. But so far, they found no luck.
Another air jab will go out. Loban taking down Rare. W7M have not been very proficient at finding these first frags. Black Dragons leading the way in opening duels. They have chased W7M for most of this match, and what a terrible time for the defenders to fall apart. W7M cutting through this defense so swiftly. Very little damage has been done, and a flawless round. My God, a quick one for W7M as they go back to match point. Wow. On attack, too. They will now have the favored side, and it could be the dagger through the heart of Black Dragons on this map.
Yeah, you gotta wonder where that ended up coming from. W7M felt like they had no real grounds. They had Loban down below, but then we get the opening pick onto Rare. Loban really playing well as an individual. Didn't have a lot of teammates down below with him to try to work those vert angles. Instead, he kills Rare, which was going to be one of those horizontal push. Rare was trying to flank down to kill Loban down below the bomb site, but instead Loban got the better of him, then continues to do extremely good work with that skeleton key. He was an absolute menace that round, and he's not had the greatest of games, right? It was 6-11, I should say, 5-11 at the start of that round before he got that opening pick on a Rare. 3 kills in the first round of overtime to bring his team back in it. A massive play coming out from Loban down below caused all that chaos, and W7M with a beautiful execute. They will now have the advantage, Parker, as they move on to defense.
Griff going for Black Dragons as they will now be free to play the Deimos. Machina had a great start to this match, but has not done much beyond that, regressing quite hard back to that low rating that the desk talked about in the pre-show. I mean, if there's an operator that can allow you to get relatively free kills, especially against disorganized teams, it's Deimos. I don't think W7M's defense has been anywhere near close to disorganized. This is going to be a very close quarters fight for W7M. Hello with Scorpion, Tachanka on the board. Oh my goodness, and Dodez will eliminate Rare. The best statistical player on the side of Black Dragons will sit out a critical round. And it's the Blackbeard, the only shield that could have been afforded for Black Dragons. What a devastating loss and a huge win for W7M.
Yeah, Rare not even in the building, just a spawn peek if I'm not mistaken, where Dodez was able to get that long angle from inside, managed to pick him up. Spawn peeking a Blackbeard is no easy feat, but somehow he found an angle, so that's going to be massive. Now you need a backup plan if you're Black Dragons. Machina down below could get you a pick. That's probably going to be where things come from, but with the mute jammers, I mean, there is the ability for W7M to just stand on those jammers, deny the death marks. Then it's going to have to rely on something like the Grimbees from Hornet to be able to find those pings, to get a vertical pick, to start equalizing the man counts. Here comes the first death mark, going to be potentially hunting down this Tachanka. Not sure if he wants to hunt him down just yet, hasn't quite used it, so he's still deciding who he wants to hunt. Gotta make a decision fast, though. 90 seconds left on the clock. Muzi still holding the defuse kit up on the top floor. Maybe gonna drop in through the skylight, jumping through top spiral. That'll be his move.
Deathmark failed. Dots has been down, so a 4v4 effectively, unless Dots can be retrieved. Still 2 gas canisters in pocket for Dots. He's been picked back up. Dodez will find his second kill. Black Dragons get on the board seconds later as Dodez will only have 2 for his trouble. Volps fires away, gives the lead back to W7M. Excellent position for these defenders as they look to close out map 1 and steal it away from Black Dragons. BD will have their hands full on border as Jesse, we are a single kill away from Black Dragons losing their map. W7M conquer them on the final round of overtime. And I say final because we don't need a third. W7M had an opportunity to do it in regulation, couldn't get it done. I don't want to punch down too much, not just because you're shorter than me, but also because you are under the weather at the present point in time. You heard what the desk had to say here about border. Do you think there's any saving grace for Black Dragons as we load into the map?
Well, the one positive that I'll say for BD is they should know what to expect at a game like this, right? You're playing W7M on border. They're going to be spawn peeking. They're going to play aggressive. They're going to swing you. That's how they like to play this map. That's how a lot of teams like to play this map. And I think especially when you're going against a team that they believe they can outgun skill, they're going to be wanting to play that as aggressively as possible. They'll take out both the Azami and Smoke. Anytime we see Azami Smoke bans on border, your mind immediately goes to East Stairs. Those are by far the two best operators in the game for holding down East. We've seen some creative answers once both those ops get bans. I know we've seen Furia try to hold down East with a Clash in the past. I know we've seen FaZe Clan try to hold it down with a Sentry. It gets really awkward to hold down that part of the map when you don't have either of those two operators. Another option that teams often go for is to just ignore East at that point, play a castle, try to play more towards the west side of the map for this top floor hold. As far as W7M are concerned, they might put Volps over there on the Sentry. We'll just have to wait and see. This top floor hold has consistently been one where they have been, I guess very consistent on their op lineups. Paul Liu has played every single round since joining W7M on the top floor border on Goyo. Dodez plays every single round on this bomb site on Aruni. So there's nothing brand new being played by W7M. There shouldn't be anything unexpected coming through. Black Dragons simply need to be able to counter what they know is coming. It's just a lot easier said than done when you're going against Black Dragon, or when you're going against W7M on border.
I suspect there will be a bit of a difference here between what we saw on Consulate as well. Border is a smaller map. It is more prone to, let's say, early violence. There's more work that needs to be done to cut through the layers of Consulate. The fact that Border is only a 2-story map versus Consulate's 3 stories obviously changes things as well. There's a lot less for you to spread out and cover. You are going to have very similar defenses for a number of bomb sites. Like here, for example. Open playing upstairs inside a break room. At the moment, this is going to be a very important part of the map for 3 bomb sites, potentially all 4. Bathroom tellers would be the only one where I would say it's not an absolute requirement that you hold, but if you're going down to that customs bomb site, if you're defending on Armory, which is where the current bomb site is, or if you're downstairs on that workshop vents, you're usually going to have somebody upstairs in that position, at least for a short period of time. Doesn't make the defenses more predictable, but it at least allows you to be a bit quicker with where you go to attack and where you assemble your forces. Otis was in for a bit of a problem there, a bit of pain as he gets out-dueled by 3 separate players from Black Dragons, and just like in map number 1, Machina will be the first one to strike in round 1.
On the same operator too, doing it twice with the Buck, so nice to see some consistency coming out from the youngest player on Black Dragons. Look at that first tip of the spear gone from Dodez, but they've still got Loban, who's actually retaken the position now, playing inside of security. He was break, but he rotated back through the hole right there that Dots is now staring through. Dots then takes up Loban's position as he's kind of still playing around this 90 hallway where he's been so important, and this one door is going to be so tough to get through. But with Hornet hitting shots like that, it does start to open things up. This has been massive. Now a freebie for Loban as Rare's just in, and I mean, he might not be done, Parker. Yes, he is.
Just said that Paulu's one of those players who's last alive, batting cleanup, as some would say. Well, he's got an awful lot to clean up at this current point in time, as there is a mess happening inside the server. Paulu gets one, almost a second on Hornetow. He loses the engagement, just too many bodies for him to deal with. Black Dragons off to the races. Great start in round 1.
Yeah, so I think part of that comes down to the Buck that was down below, right? They didn't really have any answers to a Buck below, and you usually wouldn't, right? That was a very standard top floor hold by W7M. They played that basically as you would expect them to, with 1 player on East, 1 player break, 1 player security as kind of those 3 forward positions, then another guy kind of back at 90 and Paulu alone on the site. But they did a really good job on the side of Black Dragons of getting that first pick vertically and then working picks on everybody else. They knew that, especially with a man advantage, W7M would be forced to start swinging. You could tell even from Dots, right, on that break room door. He was not willing to let them come close to that break door, consistently swinging it, consistently trying to take gunfights. Eventually got punished for it. The desk talked about it. Border can be one of those really heavy gunfight maps. Ultimately, whoever wins the opening gunfight is going to have a massive advantage going forward to the next round. This map has one of the highest conversion rates of any maps in the game. So getting that entry is going to be really important. W7M feel like they can repeat that same bomb site and find more success. And I think as we expect from W7M, this is the exact same setup where they're running almost the identical lineup. Dots on that Fenrir trying to hold things down maybe in the hallway once again, but broadly this is going to be a very similar story from W7M where they try to repeat the exact same thing and just win their fights this time.
A very brazen position right now by Volps as he's waiting for that run out on the south balk. Actually, on the map has him classified as outside, which is interesting because he's not technically out just yet. If he was, it would show that he'd be revealed. Not the only one now going for a run out. Dodez will do the same to maybe distract from the position of these attackers. 3K in that first round from Hornet, by the way. He was very, very quiet on Consulate. Most of the heavy lifting was being done by Rare and Flastry. Hornet had some good moments, but really nothing that stood out. If Hornet and Machina can both fire on all cylinders, they can compete with the best of the best. But I mean, Jack said it too. Like when you've got players that can just outmuscle you, sometimes strategy be damned. You just need gun skill to match up against the Titans on the other side. Fuser about to be planted if Flastry successful. They've set up the Osa shield now inside of Office and are getting that one down. Technically, it's called Archives. Everybody's still alive now as the first 5 seconds are off of the diffuser. 10 people still up. Killing will need to come in very quickly. It's in a precarious spot, so this will be very challenging for W7M to get themselves out of. Planted over by Sandwich right now. The upside down repel being held by Hornetow. Watching this angle, Machina kills Volps. W7M are just losing out on time here. I understand that there's reluctance, but you've got to get going. I don't really think there's much hope as Machina finds kill number 2, and we're at the point of no return. Black Dragons will win the round just based on the clock alone. Dodez nowhere close. Down below, he cuts one of them off the wire, but that is literally all she wrote on that round. A very good start. Gets even better. Black Dragons up 2-0.
That was such a cool push, Parker. I am usually a big hater of Osa, particularly on this bomb site, because we see a lot of teams, especially, we don't see it so much these days, but we used to see a lot of teams go for an Archives plant with the Osa. They put it right inside the door, and then they would usually die to a litany of C4s, Impacts, Goyos, Toxic Babes, whatever it might be. It was one of the lowest success rate pushes that we saw in competitive for a time. But that's not what Black Dragons did. Instead of planting on the Osa, they brought the Osa shield, they showed it off to the bulletproof camera that was watching that doorway, and they said, hey guys, there's an Osa here, we're gonna start planting probably. And nobody on W7M suspected that the defuse kit was actually planted in the sandwich window. It was such a good bait by Black Dragons, because the second you see the Osa, you're like, I know what this push is. This is an obvious play. And once the Osa picks up the shield, starts heading back, you're like, I don't have to worry about a plant now. And then it goes down. And then W7M are like, wait, what? Goes down sandwich window, completely snuck under their noses. Really cool strat coming out from Black Dragons to be able to get that kit on the ground. Big reason why they wanted to ban the Azami too is probably so they could go for a rush like that, because they knew that in a post plant, if W7M could cover that window with Kiba barriers, it'd be a lot easier for them to win the post plant, but doesn't end up happening. And then a big pick from Volps on the spawn peak will start off round 3 very early on, taking down Hornet.
Another run out, as well as we've seen multiple attempts for W7M to kickstart their offense and defense. They haven't found much for it. 5 kills through 2 rounds is not a great tally at the moment for W7M, but the ability to take down Hornet is great. They'll swing again, they'll get Machina, so everything is going okay for them until Musi punishes Dots and sets the advantage the W7M had down by 1, and they'll regain that same position now. Doubled up on Black Dragons. Lastry had a good read now over towards lobby, but I fear that the opportunity might have slipped through his fingers as he was hunting down Volps. Time for him to wait. There's still 2 minutes left in the round with only 2 players alive on the side of Black Dragons.
Yeah, the fuse kit's within arm's reach too. He knows where it is, can go pick it up. Very much aware of this player position. Grabs the kit now in the 1v4 as his teammate does go down. Likely to lose this gunfight. Volps will find it in the end. A very fast round from W7M, where they play their defenses and they play it extremely aggressively. I'm honestly surprised we didn't see those kind of spawn peaks coming out a little bit earlier from W7M. They're usually extremely aggressive on this map, where they go for as many peaks as possible. Those first 2 rounds, we didn't get a whole lot of spawn peaks. We didn't get a whole lot of aggression coming through. Maybe just thinking that it would be a little bit too obvious. They play their first 2 rounds relatively reined in, and then round 3, there come the peaks, there come the swings. That is going to catch Black Dragons off guard. So nice answer from W7M. That's what Black Dragons should have been expecting coming into this game, and I don't expect it's going to slow down with these bans. Ying and Fenrir are both off the board, maybe stopping some of that rush potential from the Ying, but really still going to see a lot of aggression from W7M, I expect, in the second quarter.
Is this a new ad? Ooh, it is. I see them so often that my eyes just kind of glaze over when they pop up, because we just see them all the time. We just roll with it, but that one's new. Ooh. At least
it's
new.
Also a brand new setup, I should say, by W7M.
Oh.
Palu on the Mira, this is like, we haven't seen this ever, as far as I'm aware, from W7M. I don't believe they've shown this. Again, they've played this map 4 times this season. And as far as I can see in my notes, I'm not seeing this operator lineup even once. So the 3rd time now, Parker, they're playing the top floor bomb site. They will bring out something completely new with dots on that Kaid. That was being hidden through the prep phase. Palu on this Mira. Dodez on the Frost to try to catch some players off guard. A completely new look to the top floor bomb site. It's going to present a brand new problem for Black Dragons to try to solve.
No run out, no early pressure at the moment for W7M, as they're just going to sit and wait. That can often be their undoing, again, because of the way that this map is played out. Close quarters engagements, lots of gunfights that can break out at any point. You can see through usually several walls on this upstairs part of the map, depending on, of course, the way the defenders have set it up and the way that the attackers approach it. Swing or be swung becomes the mantra of the day for these teams. If you sit and wait and play a static style of defense, the attackers can set themselves up very effectively and punish you. So defenders need to take some liberties, take some chances here. You see W7M continuing to do this through the first minute of play.
So with this castle, they can really ignore the east part of the map. They can block this off, and they don't really have to be so concerned with holding it. They also have no answers to the Kaid clause. So office wall, the triple wall, is going to be closed almost for sure the entire round. I imagine the second claw was used on the lockers wall as well. So hard breaching is going to be even more difficult for Black Dragons. They've got really strong setup. A lot of this util being cleared. The mirror windows and castles are being taken care of, but actually the Ash Charge caught by a magnet. So the mirror window that looks down the hallway straight towards east will remain, and Muzi is completely out of Ash Charges. So unless they can hit this with a Habana pellet, this window will stay up likely the entire round.
Nitro Cell will go, some adrenal surge coursing through their veins. Only one will be good enough, though, as Hornet, the Finka, is taken out of action. Missed opportunity from Loban to swing on over. Flastry dies, though, so it was a joint effort. They sent up the stairs, and Machina greeted by Volps. Now Muzi's on the ground, and Rare finds himself in a 1v5 with Black Dragons now about to lose their lead. A flawless round will be denied as Rare hits the fadeaway shot onto Dodez inside of security and hightails it over to the other side of the building. Whether he spends the next 40 seconds to talk to the team or not, I don't know if it will really impact much of this round. It's more about setting themselves up successfully and favorably for what comes next. You just saw that last operator ban of the first half come in. It will have an impact on the next 2 rounds. Obviously, the win condition for Black Dragons will be to run up the score on this first half. They should be able to pull it off if they drop the lead, which they are just about to do, and it will happen as Volps ties things up with that final kill. Could be an even greater sign of trouble for BD.
It's a really cool setup coming out from W7M. There was an interview that Loban did on our broadcast. I can't remember if it was the final play day or maybe the one before that, but he was basically bragging about how deep the strat book is from W7M and how at any point they could go back to a strat that they maybe haven't played in a month, 6 months, even up to a year, and they would still be able to pull it out. And it's really hard for other teams to counter strat W7M because of that ability to reach so deep back in the strat book. I think that was an excellent example. As I said, on that top floor, at least for the last 8 times that they have played it, the last 10 times if you include rounds 1 and 3, they have run the exact same setup, more or less, with a Goyo and a Rooney, usually a Smoke, usually Loban and Dots kind of playing somewhat aggressively towards break. It's been more or less the same op lineup for that bomb site for months now from W7M, and then they switch it on a dime. It's such a great hold that Black Dragons do not have answers for, not ready for the Womai Magnets to come through, just being completely outplayed on the utility, which you don't say so much on Border. So really cool to see that coming out. And now, because through 4 rounds, W7M played the top floor 3 times, they still have the opportunity to surprise Black Dragons. We're in round 5, and we're seeing the 3rd bomb site being played, Bathroom Tellers, for the very first time. So Black Dragons will again have to problem solve as W7M bring another relatively new lineup to this bomb site.
Ooh, nice shot by Hornet onto Palu. I don't know if Palu was expecting that one to happen in the first 25 seconds. It's immediately answered back, though. Hornet has been statistically the best player for Black Dragons through this map.
Setting up a sequential breach.
It'll be a devastating loss, and no Ash as well with a little bit over 2 minutes to go. Palu's gadgets will persist. Those mute jammers that were put down will continue to block signals and gadgets. No Nitro Cell on his side, though. Loban will die now, too, as he takes an engagement with Musi through one of those barricaded doors, and logic bombs will now come out. Defenders can easily find shelter on those jammers, depending on where Palu has put them. Down in numbers, W7M will now retreat to the bomb site on the bottom floor.
Still looking at Dotez up above, but it is Dots, I should say, that finds the entry pick onto Machina, equalizing back to a 3v3. That feels quite nice for him. Caught on a Lion charge. Dotez the only person not caught by Lion, actually, but he's the one being hunted. Hits a beautiful shot, maybe for 2 as well. He sees Musi just inside of Archives, but doesn't win the fight. Thankfully traded out by the veteran on Black Dragons, whittling down to a 2v2 with still 90 seconds to go. They do not have the defuse kit, Parker. I believe it has been dropped top floor. It shouldn't be contested by W7M, so they should be able to pick that up without too many issues. But low HP on Musi, still Flashtree playing on that hard support as well, being the Hibana for this round. Got to take their time now. Go for a little bit of droning, set up this execute, and then make sure you can have a good push. Be aware of Volps up above too.
Hard to control the recoil on that Vector from such a great amount of range. You can easily crouch walk your way through the lobby to find some safe passage over towards the bomb site. A flank now comes in, and Volps hits the 2-piece to give W7M the lead. Excellent cam work from the defenders, and Volps capitalizes on it.
I mean, Volps just continues to be the most impressive IGL, I would say, in the world, certainly in the South American League, having the 117 KDR, highest of any captain that we see in the SAL. Doing all of this while still being the captain and calling is so impressive. And that round, having the wherewithal to go for the flank, I believe he moved up the metal stairs, perfectly timed to be able to make that rotation up to find that pinch. What they didn't want to happen was a direct 2v2 engagement where they were completely known by Black Dragons. Both W7M players are in the site, and then the Black Dragons guys can try to work a 1v2 pick. It was a little bit awkward just because W7M did separate themselves, but they've got so much confidence in their players that Volps knows if he leaves his last player alive, he can still count on that player to stay alive, to play passive, to be the distraction while he makes the big play to go for that flank. Super smart decision coming out from Volps in that previous round. And again, just barely catching Black Dragons off guard. Musi is doing his best in this series, but so far it has not been enough.
Don't really know why we are seeing the mass leave the server. I suspect there's an issue with either the game or one of the players. Well, I think it might be on the side of Black Dragons here, Jesse.
Well, Volps had that big flank, and then he was immediately the first one to leave, so I'm not sure if he was maybe the one that crashed. You are right, the admins seem to be working on the Black Dragons PCs instead, so I'm sure we'll get it sorted out quite quickly and we'll get back into the game. That is one big advantage of being on LAN, is that you've got the best in the biz to help try to run the tech support if things do go wrong. So nice to have everybody in one place. Currently with a 3-2 lead, Black Dragons, again, just because they are such a poor attacking team, I don't think they're so concerned if they go down 4-2 on this half. They expect to be running things back on the defensive side. Border is not consulate, so the defense should be a little bit trickier on this map compared to what we saw back in map number 1. But Black Dragons should be confident in their own abilities to pull back even from a deficit, even if this first half doesn't go the way that they wanted it to. Because they've done it so far before on map number 1, because they know they are a better defensive team anyways, I think they should still be confident going into that second half. You kind of have to be, right? I mean, if you don't go in with confidence, then what are you doing? So hopefully they don't get too hard on themselves after how some of these rounds should have gone. They are very much putting up a good fight against w7m throughout this series, and I think we've seen some really promising stuff from them, despite the fact they lost map 1 and are now down 3-2.
And Tech Pause does seem to be on the side of Black Dragons. It's a game-related issue, but we should be back in the server in short order. We are, if you do not have a visual representation of the bracket, in the lower part of the bracket right now, which means it's lose and go home, but inversely win and go up to the top 4. 6 teams remain in the South American League. Furia and FaZe Clan both toppled their opponents just last weekend, both by a score of 2-0. FaZe Clan did it in faster fashion against Ninjas in Pajamas, but it doesn't really matter. Everybody lands on the runway at the same time. Everybody gets off the plane at the same time. Doesn't matter if you do it 2-1 or 2-0. FaZe Clan got their 2-0. Furia, same thing. Black Dragons lost 2-0 to NIP. Now here they are against w7m, and they could drop yet another map. They need to win their opponent's map here on Border to stay alive. They lose it, and w7m not only moves on, but also clinches a spot in the top 4. Shortly after this best of 3 wraps up, Ninjas in Pajamas and Team Liquid will do battle. Team Liquid also searching for their first map victory, as they were 0-2'd by Furia in the upper bracket quarterfinals. That is an interesting one. I think we can look at this matchup, Jesse, and have a pretty good idea of what should happen. I don't know if you can say the same about NIP and Liquid. Maybe you disagree with me on that point, but I look at NIP and Team Liquid and I just kind of throw my hands up and go flip a coin.
It's definitely a lot closer on paper. I think it gets very awkward. I would say NIP are probably the favorites just based on how they've played this stage, but I mean, it's tough to say that Liquid also wouldn't have a really strong shot. They had a rough start to the season. They're kind of the inverse of Black Dragons, where Liquid didn't really start off too hot. They lost a lot of their early games. I believe it was the first, 5 or 6 games? I think it was 5 games in a row. They went down 0-5 to start this stage. It's actually against Black Dragons where they broke that losing streak, managed to get their first win of the season, also coinciding with Black Dragons' first loss of the season. That's not quite true. Black Dragons lost their opening game against NIP, but one of their first losses. And we ended up seeing kind of that swap happen right after that game where Team Liquid all of a sudden took off at the tail end of the stage, and then Black Dragons really started to slow down. Once again, 7 maps in a row Black Dragons have lost, and they're hoping to bounce back from that. Our next game will be a nail biter, but this one still could be as well. If Black Dragons lose this, they would be then on, of course, an 8-map losing streak, which for Muzi would tie a career low. He had his first 8-map losing streak back in early 2022 during SI and Stage 1, where he ended up losing a lot with NIP, one of the weakest moments that NIP have had in their history. Muzi, of course, after leaving that NIP roster, decided to take a break, decided to relax for a little bit, step away from the game for a moment, but always had the intention of coming back, rejoined on this Black Dragon squad, and early on had a ton of success. Of course, with how things have gone for BD, haven't really been able to maintain that, and now in a do-or-die game against w7m, I'm hoping we see more stuff out of him, because I think Muzi has had some great moments in this game, and when you're down like this, as you are for Black Dragons, when you're in such a slump, sometimes you need to rely on those veterans to really step up and have the big moments.
We're back in it, and perfect time for us to see a side swap. I miss a round.
Yeah, I thought it was 3-2. There might have been something going on admin side where the round was awarded to Black Dragons. I'm not exactly sure, but
little confused here. So we are getting word that a round was given to Black Dragons because a player left the lobby without admin permission. All right, that's I'm guessing there must have been an issue and the players just assumed that they could leave. They left. Somebody on the side of w7m disconnected, did so before it was allowed, and the round was handed to Black Dragons because of it. That's all right. Well, we are not admins. We do not make these decisions. All right. Well, Black Dragons win the round, I guess. And now here we are in halftime.
well, we'll be happy with a 3-3 split, I suppose. I mean, tough for w7m. You do have to inform the admins if there is an issue, so that's just going to be coming down to them following the rules. We will now move to them on the attacking side. I think still in a strong position. Once again, this is their map pick. I would argue that Border is often a map that leans towards the attackers. Black Dragons got side choice on this map, and so they certainly thought that attack would be their stronger side. Now they move on to defense. Go top floor, as we so commonly do to start off Border, and Black Dragons are already starting with a little bit of a spawn peek. Muzi running out. It might have just been to place down a goo mine or something, but given that he's on the Legion, doesn't have Barb or anything, and it was a little bit later into the round, I do believe that he was trying to find some kind of a pick. Rains it back in, no damage dealt or received, so not going to be anybody going down from that. As we look to the attacker lineup, just based on early positioning, this could be an Archives-focused take from w7m. They've got that Capitao if they want to go for some smoke plays, if they want to get a cheeky plant down either back on the sandwich window where we saw Black Dragons going for a plant, or perhaps straight in through Archives. Lobin down below as well, able to cause a lot of havoc on the Deimos. This is one of those operators that was banned for the first half, so it's our first time seeing Deimos here on Border.
We have official word now from the admins in the South America League. Basically, for those curious, during the operator pick phase, Volps left the lobby without getting permission from an admin first. This is admittedly a very common situation that's happened across all regions for a number of years now, actually, where players will just say, oh, drone bug rehost, and then will just leave on their own without the admins agreeing. There's usually been very little pushback from the admins, so a rule that has been in the rulebook for quite some time is not just being enforced, but being enforced very properly, it would seem like. If you're w7m, especially if you're a player like Volps, who, you know, you can't really pin the entire blame on him, but I mean, it was his actions that ultimately led to the round forfeiture for w7m. You got to be a little frustrated. And I mean, we had a bit of a delay and you immediately queue into a flawless loss. You've got to have some ironclad mental on the side of w7m, because most players would tilt off the face of the earth, especially your teammates. It's not even Volps in that particular situation. It's the other four players who likely will have some resentment towards the issue that was caused by one of your players. And somebody like Volps, frankly, an experienced player, his teammates might be thinking, you know better. Either way, don't really know the circumstance, and I'm not really keen to speculate on anything beyond what the admins have told us. Sometimes miscommunications happen, sometimes mistakes happen. Not really sure. All we know is that the ruling was against Volps, and because of that, w7m loses the round and then get nothing in the immediate round after coming back in. That's a dreadful 1-2 punch for w7m, and they really cannot afford to take many losses, especially, Jesse, after they were starting to mount an impressive comeback.
Yeah, I talk about momentum swing, and a lot of that does come off from Flashtree as well, who, despite being tracked by the Deimos, got two really strong picks early on. It was a double Nitro cell that came out from both him and I think it was Muzi as well that had those first couple of frags, and then Flashtree, a second one to come from just that locker's position, playing a punch hole in 2025. getting it done one way or another. I thought that was a really nice round coming out from Flasher to get those 2 big kills. Now they will start to defend in round number 8 to switch up the bomb site, go over towards bathroom, and a really cool Mira setup being held on the top floor. I believe this was Falcons that ran this for the first time. Not current Falcons, but the Middle Eastern team late last year who ran this either in Montreal or SI up against Dark Zero that really started to turn some heads where you've got quite a strong Mira setup inside of offices. So it'll be really interesting to see how W7M try to deal with that. They could just ignore it and go for a plant, as that seems to be the case.
Dots on very little HP, but he will stick the landing. Diffuser gets planted again. All 10 players alive. The second time here on this map that will happen. Only casualty at this current point in time is Volps, who currently sits at 0-2 and will be a player that we keep a very close eye on for the remainder of this map. And if it goes sideways for Black Dragons, the remainder of the series, which will conclude on bank. Time continuing to go down. Multiple players now sitting on that case. Musi first one to die. Rare will go down as well. Lobin taking no prisoners. A terrific round for him as W7M do what was done to them just a couple rounds previously, with Black Dragons getting that diffuser down on their first half. And W7M will tie things up.
Black Dragons, first of all, didn't have anybody in the bomb site. They had 2 players below, but one was in waiting, one was in workshop. So adjacent rooms to the bomb site, but nobody directly in sight. They also didn't have a rotate between the sites. Usually there's going to be some ways for the defenders to move between bathroom and tellers so that they can stop a plant like what Dots was going for, but that didn't exist. When Machina was dropping the office hatch to try to go for a plant denial, he couldn't move into tellers where the defuse kit was going down. Some mistakes on the setup, I would argue, from Black Dragons as they let W7M waltz into their bomb site. I was busy complimenting how nice the Mira setup was top floor, but W7M didn't seem to care at all. Just hitting the bomb site, planting 5v5 with nothing in their way. They even had a Legion on the board there as Musi was playing that operator can often stop one of those plants, but there didn't seem to be any goo mines in the site to stop Dots from getting in, getting that plant down. Volp's a big entry as well, playing on that Blackbeard. So nice droning from W7M to assess the situation, to realize they could go for a fast plant like that and immediately take the momentum straight back on their side.
Logan got 4 kills in that previous round, but if you're just looking at the kill feed, I do wonder if he maybe collected a downed player. The kill feed will give him credit for that, but he doesn't actually do most of the work. You've just got the player downed. A terrific way to stat pad if it were the opposite. Just have your opponents down everybody. They do most of the work again, and then you just finish them off. It's diabolical. Dots was very successful on the Monty in the previous round. He will pilot the same operator now through jail, as the focus will be on that first floor, getting close to the bomb site, but you cannot go for too linear of a take. There will be defenders situated above the bomb site. There will be defenders also looking for a retake. On the previous site, bathroom tellers, retakes are tremendously challenging, especially if the case is planted by the window, which is the default spot. Volps might be in his head here, Jesse. He's about to be 0-3 since coming back from this rehost. Logic bombs finishing off. That was the gadget that was used by Volps before he was punished. Very little damage has been done to Black Dragons as we hit the halfway point of the round, and Rare missed an opportunity to take down Dodez. Loban's been dropped as well, so 2 dominoes have toppled over. Dots finished off, and my god, Black Dragons are punishing these players from W7M. Dodez the only one on the board as Volps helpless, bleeding out. There will be no way to pull him back from the dead, so it will be on the shoulders of the 2 remaining players of W7M. Black Dragons doubling up yet again, a very familiar spot for when Black Dragons starts to win the round.
It's crazy. He was outside the building, and I thought they could have been able to rotate somebody out to pick him up, but doesn't happen, so now it's a 2v4. They're trying to group up, and there's a freebie for Dodez. Unfortunately, he'll need the last 3 all by himself, and they don't know where he is, 1 HP, and doesn't get the job done. Big kill from Flasher to end things out, and yeah, it really does come down to a lot of those early engagements where maybe they're in their own heads, maybe they're over swinging, maybe they don't have full information, but W7M lost a lot of those early gunfights and were never able to recover.
Reductive to just talk about the gunfights, and the fighting back and forth, but I mean, it's really been Black Dragons rising to the occasion here on this map. I mean, if the scoreline does end up going 2-0 for W7M, you can't look at the score and say Black Dragons didn't really give it their all. That first map was incredibly close. I suspect Border is going to play out the same. Head coach of W7M now talking directly to Volps. I wonder if he's trying to get him out of what kind of mental rut would be in there. Again, we have no idea what's going on, but I cannot suspect that Volps is happy, and I have to imagine that what just occurred is going to have an impact on Volps and the rest of the team moving forward.
You go back to like the biggest moment that Volps has had in this map, and it was that big flank in the 2v2 on the Bathroom Teller's defense, where he went top floor and he had that late round play. He can be a late round player. He is one to get active in the early round too, especially on the attack. But when he's known for having such big plays in the late round, him going down early is often even worse for W7M. The fact that all of his deaths have been so early into the round, I think, is definitely something that they've got to watch out for on the side of W7M. Maybe he's just got to rein things in a little bit. You've got an exceptionally talented entry duo on W7M of Loban and Dodez who can make those early frags happen for you. There's maybe no entry duo I'd rather have. You combine them, especially with Palu and Dots, who can make big moments as well. And I really do think the W7M don't need to be losing their captain so early. They'll ban out the Blackbeard, which was one of those operators that he had an early death on. So maybe a bit of a boon for W7M that they won't have to play that operator anymore. The only time it was brought was when Volps went for that bathroom rush. So didn't have the greatest of impacts, but regardless, still felt like something that W7M wanted to remove. And then the smoke to be taken out on the side of Black Dragons. That has been played every single round from Hornetau, so he will be forced to switch things up. And he goes to Tachanka, which is almost always being brought as a replacement to the smoke. Not a huge surprise to see it here, but if he's playing East with it, and it does look like he will leave himself open to being rushed down through those flames. It can often be a really risky strategy to play Tachanka East stairs.
Particular part of the map, the adjoining exterior patio between security and armory is played quite heavily by the defenders. And if you've got a Malusi on the board, you can put Banshees down there. You see some teams will even set an Evil Eye down there, or barbed wire, goo mines, or what will be there. As Musi had gone for a very quick run out the door. Bizarre circumstances have led Black Dragons to having the upper hand here on a map that was starting to look like W7M would quickly 2-0 this series. Black Dragons have been taking full advantage of that. It also prompted the timeout from W7M, who might be going for a bit of a rush. Down goes Flastry at the hands of Dots. Fire raining out. Volps on the fuse shield. Monty is available, so this is an intriguing choice, Jesse. Volps is in the bomb site with Case in hand at the halfway point, taking some damage from the fire. He manages to get the diffuser down right as he dies, but W7M literally kills everybody. What a baffling round that was. Over before it really even began, and finally smiles break through on the faces of the W7M players as they've tied the game.
Another example of why Siege isn't always played on paper. In theory, Tachanka should have been the perfect counter because he can stall for so long and stop that plant, but they didn't plant directly inside the door as you might expect from a shield plant on Archives. Instead, Volps went quite back onto the hard floor in the northeast corner of Archives, and so while eventually Hornet was able to adjust that fire, it was a second too late to deny the plant. And even if it wasn't, as you said, every single frag going the way of W7M. Loban got a big pick onto Rare. That kind of opened things up from down below. He was the one guy that wasn't really directly part of that push, but was below the bomb site, having a massive impact. And then Palu as well made an entrance through the sandwich window. So one of the strongest things about trying to plant Archives is it draws a lot of attention to that part of the map. If you've got a plant going down Archives, or even if you're faking a plant, as we saw from Black Dragons in Archives, it tends to make every single defender look in that direction. So that kind of opens the door if you're Black Dragons to then get a plant down somewhere else, or if you're W7M to flood in through the rest of the site and make a huge impact with the kills. Twice now we've seen defender focus over towards Archives doors, but it's been sandwich window where things really do fall apart for the defense.
Tachanka did really work out for Black Dragons. I mean, that Shumika launcher almost completely stopped the plant in its tracks. It's a rare operator, honestly, to see have that much success. I feel like we see Tachanka an awful lot, and attackers just kind of isolate the Lord and pull off plants where those Molotovs cannot do the same amount of damage, but a very forward execute by W7M makes it relatively easy to just lob those bolts / canisters of fire over. They don't do a ton of damage. They work really effectively for area denial, but you're going to take more damage from Goyo canister popping. Volps still without a kill since the quote-unquote incident to TM. Dodez dies as he gets a little bit confused. There's an F-Naught outside by Flastry. I would be mad as well, Dodez, and the leadoff pick goes to Black Dragons in similar circumstances to what we had in map number 1. 5-5 half, one of these teams will move to match point. W7M could even move to series point if they find 4 more kills now that they've taken Machina off the board.
Second time Machina's played the Clash on this bomb site. I'm just not sure exactly what value he's getting out of it. Doesn't really seem to be using the shield. Both times we saw him on this site was just kind of taking gunfights with the SMG. I'm sure there is a strategy behind it, but haven't really seen it so far on these defenses. Doesn't seem to matter. His teammates are getting massive picks. There's Hornet with the next pick onto Lobin, so that's going to be the Capitao taken off the board. There's still really strong top floor control being held by Black Dragons. Muzi upstairs in security, Flashry inside a fountain, Hornet in the hallway as well. So all 3 players really doing a good job of walking down this top floor. They're still trying to fight it on W7M. One's walking up metal too, and that's going to be Volps hunting for a pick. Might get a freebie, but caught in the crossfire instead, Parker. That's tough.
That's some siege timing right there. He was a half step away from what could have been a round-breaking kill, and now it's Palu last alive, a familiar spot for him. Black Dragons can seize this moment quite easily. They just need to show patience over the next minute. Palu does not have the diffuser, so he's got to go for kills unless he wants to play some objective. Great game of keep away right now from the defenders. It'll be interesting to see the way Palu tries to solve his way out of the circumstance that he finds himself in, not really through his own actions, but through the actions and, more importantly, inactions of his teammates. The Clash shield still slows you, even though the Clash is long dead. He's still getting shocked from up on the balcony. This is a miserable experience. A huge round from Hornet. The Tachanka playing such a critical role, not just with those fire bolts, but they're the fire grenades, but additionally the LMG as well. And Black Dragons will move to match point.
As the desk touched on, it has been many months since W7M lost border to a team not rhyming with Schluria. Now we've got some ridiculous potential for Black Dragons to take their opponent's map pick, go up 7-5, and repeat the scoreline that W7M had twice last week in the SAL playoffs. We'll have to put together a good attack on Vents and Workshop. Starting to fall to pieces with some early deaths coming down from Dodez and Lobin. Volps 1 in 5 since the rehost. We do see some cracks forming in the mental of W7M, perhaps. The desk talked about it. This is going to be a really gunfight heavy map, and you'd expect that to favor W7M. They should have the better mechanics, but in the second half, I mean, Hornet has been absolutely phenomenal. 7-3 since the half started, putting huge work early on the smoke, and now on the Tachanka as well. Not roles that you expect to see players fragging out in, but Hornet's getting the job done even on these hard support operators. Third Tachanka in the row after 3 smokes before the ban.
Why is it always the Russian ops that come in when you ban people out? You ban the shields, so you bring a few shield. Ban the smoke and everything else, you have to bring into Tachanka. Why the Russians?
They're just kind of bad ops, to be honest. No reason to play them unless your primary objectives
you
are...
need to.
Yeah, pretty much. we're being honest.
Tao is punished for a peek that had worked the previous round, not this time though. And after a terrific performance in round number 11, round 12 will be much worse for the Lord. No fire, no end of round potential other than a Nitro Cell or two on the side of Black Dragons. So things will be tougher now for the defenders for the remainder of this round. Devastating, given how close Black Dragons are to putting this map into the win column.
Job's not done for W7M though. Still a couple of players up above. Everybody other than Machina still lurking around top floor. Rare on this Solus trying to make something happen. Muzi willing to get aggressive inside security. These are not unknown positions to W7M. They're going to have one more logic bomb as soon as it generates for Lobin. But this Monty, they can make a lot of space completely for free. Starting to open up the walls into archives now. Dot's one of the best shield players in the world, hoping to try to isolate a pick onto Rare as he's starting to fall back to Flashtree where his teammate is playing. They switch their focus though, and now they're rushing down Muzi.
Muzi will take some damage as he looks for safe harbor inside of Armory. He finds it. Palu gets dropped by Flashtree. It's a very bold position by Flashtree right now. A complete full frontal defense presenting itself on that Armory wall as Volps misses an opportunity, goes for the flash, and with it, the players of Black Dragons can now scamper away. They've done some damage, though, to W7M along the way. Getting rid of Palu is a big victory. They're going to need a couple more of those to take border. If not, overtime for the second map in a row will emerge. That's a tough one for the defenders. Rare gets baited out by Machina. Machina had pulled trigger a little bit too early. Rare is punished for it, and now Machina is able to get away. The right call from Black Dragons. Assemble over toward the bomb site. Flashtree dropped. Muzi and Machina have completely circled around. A nice play by Machina, but he'll only find one. So Muzi will have to ascend upstairs, stare down those players as 30 seconds remain on the clock. Dot's holding on to the diffuser. Now attempting a plant. Muzi will fish for the location. Firing away through the floor, but gunned down by Dotez, who had a great round, and to overtime we go for the second map in a row.
Wow, what a shot through the vert angle. That is not an easy one to hit, but they get the job done. They clear out Muzi, who has had to be a hero a couple times in this game. Can't get it done there. I think it was really smart from W7M. They didn't overextend on the top floor. They didn't continue to bang their head against the wall as they just eventually were able to force those Black Dragons players back down. Yes, they traded 1-for-1. They lost Palu in an early and uncharacteristic early death coming out from him. But in the 4v4, they're able to take that space and are eventually able to work that plant on with Dots. Not a lot of great answers to be had against that top floor presence. Flashtree was playing the exact same punch hole that he played earlier on in this stage and got another pick from it earlier in this game, I should say. Was also the only player with some strong plant denial. He had that C4 that he could have maybe used if he had the proper angle to stop Dots from planting inside of vents, but he went down right before that plant started, so didn't really have that as an option, despite being so close just inside the bomb site. Really good pressure from W7M, collapsing from all sides. Now they go to overtime, and attack timeout will stall us for just a moment. Black Dragons trying to find a game plan for these last 3 rounds.
Black Dragons will defend the first round here of overtime, and if needed, will defend the final round with W7M attacking twice on border should we go all the way to round 15. W7M have already settled in on the attacking side, so there will be no difference here. It'll be 7th attack in a row. I really do need to go back to that 6th round where it was a forfeit by W7M, because it really did feel like W7M were steadily improving as a team and could have easily run away with this. Cost your team a round and then go into round 7 and get flawless must have been an awful feeling for these players. I do not envy them in the slightest, though ultimately the admins are just simply reacting to a decision and a set of actions that were made by players. It's not like the admins are to blame here. But still, man, oh man, this might not have needed to go to OT if maybe a bit of patience that allegedly it wasn't shown, or allegedly wasn't shown, had been shown. All the same, again, move on, get it out of your head. Approach this round as if it's a new day. You are in a 3-round shootout. Make the most of it. Black Dragons could mean the difference between going home We're going to map 3.
Well, Parker, I mean, it was a free round given by W7M, and Black Dragons are hoping to give another free round back to W7M. They've chosen Custom Supply, one of the worst bomb sites in Siege, to try to hold things down. They do clearly have a good setup for it. Of course, with the mirror windows top floor, they're going to be needing to hold security for dear life. The second they lose this hold becomes really awkward and difficult to maintain. W7M are starting their push over towards east. They've got Dots on the Monty, who will spearhead this push, staring down the mirror window as he makes his way towards it. Takes a bit of a detour into office, where he's still got a good angle on that mirror window. Some nice information being held by Black Dragons too, with these Valk cams potentially going to enable a Nitro Cell to start things off. Machina is certainly hoping for that. They've got direct pings on where that Nitro Cell will be, so that should be a freebie unless somebody can spot that out from W7M.
That was Rare watching his own Nitro Cell, by the way, Jesse, which will now... No, it won't go off. Now he's going to watch on a second opportunity. That might have been him watching Machina's Bandit Nitro Cell. 4 or 3 explosives that can now be used here. Loban will start off by getting rid of Musi. That's a bit of a sigh of relief. Those goo mines will not be quite as effective. Down goes Flash Tree now, too, as this top floor control is looking mighty good for W7M.
Yeah, Sight not even really playing a part in it so far. The top floor just going so well for W7M. Probably the best clear that we've seen thus far. Somebody needs to be a hero and make a play. Rare wants to be that guy, but Paulu looks like he's got the read on it as the rotate up east has been played out. They'll shoot the bit of a canister and then fall back. That means the position's known, though. Somebody on Black Dragon still needs to make a play to equalize the numbers.
It's not working. Loban having a terrific set of rounds now as he just continues to age like a fine wine. They get their own flawless round back. W7M moving to series point as not a single kill comes out in the first round of OT on the side of Black Dragons. This one could have been over before OT. It is crazy to think of what the scoreline could have been. Now we just work with what is. W7M will be given an opportunity to defend. Operator bans will go back in from that first half, and Black Dragons will need to win this round to keep themselves alive.
And I mean, I suppose there was no bomb site that they won twice on the side of Black Dragons. Every bomb site that they played before going custom supplies had a 1-1 record through the second half. They defended top floor, then they lost it. They lost bathroom tellers, then they won it. They defended Vents Workshop, then they lost it. So I guess it's a coin flip no matter where they go, but going to custom supply instead of just trying maybe a new strategy on one of those other sites was certainly a decision that they made. They don't have a lot of time left to worry about it, though. They need to focus up because this game is still not over. They'll get their own chance to go for an attacking round win. No custom supply now. It's just going to be back to the top floor where W7M have played so many times so far. It'll be their 4th time defending on this bomb site. And the first 2 times, they tried to run it very standard with Dots on that Goyo and, of course, Yaruni coming out as well from Dodez. This time they're doing a bit of a hybrid play where they are bringing the mirror window back out. It's not exactly the same operator lineup they had in round number 4, but it's not the same lineup they had in rounds 1 or 2 either. It seems like this is a completely new strat that W7 are bringing out for the 3rd time on the top floor of Quarter.
Vulcan set up and ready to blow.
At stake for W7M, which they will now have 2 opportunities to clinch, will be a top 4 spot. Even if W7M drop this round, there will be 1 more chance for them. They will join Furia and FaZe Clan as a top 4 team in the region. Black Dragons will leave the playoffs without a single map win. Up next, should W7M prevail, we will have Team Liquid versus Ninjas in Pajamas. That matchup will be wild, I suspect. Both of those teams have had consistency issues. Yep, looks like world beaters some days, and then other days it looks like they don't even spawn into the server. Team Liquid had a dreadful start to the SA League, but then managed to turn things around and get a playoff spot, all before getting dropped in that first round. Machina will start off here with the killing. Bit of player under watch. Gives an advantage to Black Dragons.
What do you do as a response if you're W7M? Do you swing more to try to get that man count back, or do you rein things in a little bit? Hope the Black Dragons just sit and waste their own time. If you're someone like Dots, you might not have too much of a choice in the matter. If you start getting pushed over towards security, there's little that you can do. Machina on this buck has been so proficient at getting those early opening frags for his team. It's been an area where Black Dragons have struggled this season, but Machina this game has been really a difference maker. He's got one for his squad now, and they start to set up over around security. Dots has moved straight into the corner, though. This might not be a position that gets read. If he has a big impact, this could completely turn the game on its head.
Heard Machina doing some buck work. Down one Hornet Town, Dots on the ground, has to ensure that his play against Flastry goes unseen for the time being. All trying to chase them off as W7M are counting entirely on this play from Dots, and he will get it on to Flastry, immediately popping up, looking for an answer over towards Break Room, but there's no follow-up at the moment. Machina's reign of terror continues in this round. They're outnumbered on the side of W7M, but Volp says not today. Back to a 2v2 footing. Time running out for Black Dragons. They need to retrieve the diffuser or go for picks. They do not have enough time to do both, so they'll have to choose. Machina's dropped, and it's all up to Muzi. A tremendously experienced player, but experience doesn't win you rounds. Bullets do, and Dots will teach him that. W7M prevail with a 2-0 scoreline and clinch a top 4 in the South America League.